Chakadosh Boker Tov. We're going to be speaking about now something very interesting, which is Hitiru Sofan Mishum Tchilatan, which means that there exists a concept in Ilchot Refuah that sometimes we permit the end because of the beginning. What does that mean? We permit the end because of the beginning. So he says here, Advarim Nogim L'Maaseh B'Yameinu, for example, people of Hatzalah, that they come out to save somebody, and they went out with their car, and after they went and they saved the person, or they did whatever it was that they needed to, they have to come home. So therefore, obviously, there's going to be an Isur Torah. So we're going to have to speak about whether it's going to be permitted for them to go out, to come back, to go there. For sure was permitted. Obviously, it was for Sorech Pikuach Nefesh. It was to save a life. But the question is, what about coming back? So it says over here like this, Tomecha Leida. We're speaking about a doula, for example, a woman that she's coming and she's helping, right, for like a midwife or a woman that she's helping as a nurse. She's a Tomecha Leida. She comes out be'eter michutz ha'ir to come and to help a yoledet on Shabbat. After the Leida, she's permitted to go in the entire city where she actually traveled to. And also the 960 meters outside of the city, the same halacha would apply to all the ones which are going outside of the city. For example, whether it's going to be police or Hatzalah, they're allowed to travel within the entire city, and they're also allowed to travel with 960 meters outside of the city as well, because that's within the tchum, right, of that city. Now again, all this is because of the same reason, because basically what happens is that once they came out with the reshut, which means once they went out permission to do whatever they needed to, so now they're allowed to continue traveling. So he says, Gedolei Paskei Zmanenu, though, they have a machloket, that somebody that comes out to save somebody on Shabbat, is the heter is just to go around, right? Is he also allowed to go back when there's Isurim Doraita? For example, going in a car. Because until here, we're talking about that even though they were in another tchum, for example, they're here, and they have to go right now to, let's say, we're talking about past 123rd Street. So therefore, what they're going out of the tchum. So now you could tell me, listen, they could stay within the same tchum over there in that same amount of area, or 960 meters, but whoever said about doing Yisure Doraita or not. So some people actually prohibit it. Okay? That's what it says. V'yesh itiru, and some people, they permit it. However, though it appears the words of the ones which are permitting, and the reason why we're going to come and we're going to permit is because if you're going to come and you're going to prohibit them going back to their place, they won't go next time to save. Which means if you're going to tell a Hatzalah member, listen, by the way, right now you're allowed to take the car, you're allowed to go wherever it is to go save someone, but now just stay there. How many of them would actually go? Right? You're minimizing it. So therefore, because of that, Mishum Chashash Pikuach Nefesh de La'aba, Matirim Afilu Isurei Torah. It's going to be permitted even Isurei Torah. So that's going to be very, very important. Now, even though we just mentioned this to do with the Hatzalah members, he says, what about a woman that she is giving or in the middle of birth, right? And what happens is, Isha Me'uberet, Shetakfu Tzidei Leida, that all of a sudden she has a lot of contractions, so she goes to the Bet Cholim, she goes to the hospital, right, which is outside of the city usually. And now what happens is, it stops. It was a false start. And then what happens is, the Bet Cholim come and they say, the hospital comes and says, you're free, go back home. Now it's on Shabbat. She's not allowed to go back home even through a Nahag Goy. She cannot go home even with a non-Jewish driver. And therefore, if she doesn't have any type of family members or anyone around the Bet Cholim where she's there, so therefore she should ask the Bet Cholim in order to stay there until the end of the Shabbat. Because here, she does not have this permission to actually go. Here he says, Shut Chatam Sofer says, Ve'en la'atil lachzor afilu l'idei goy mishum tchilatan, the reason why is because even in he who בעצמו is סכנה, לקה למך שאם לא יתירו לחזור לא ילך פעם אחרת. זה אינו, שהרי הוא יחוש לעצמו. מה שאין כן ההולכים להציל מן הגייס, which means like this. There's going to be a big difference between a Hatzalah member or somebody themselves which are sick. Somebody himself that he's sick, if you're going to tell him, listen, by the way, if you're right now going to go there, you're going to have to stay there. Right? And then you're going to say, what? Now, if he's actually really sick, you think he's not going to go next time? The person himself is sick. He's not going to care now that he has to stay there the entire time. He'll go again. But the person himself, he will go again because of his own sakana. However, though, if we are the Hatzalah, and now we're on a call, and now they're going to tell you, listen, where's this call? In Aventura, they don't have enough people in Aventura. Now you're going to have to go there, but you're going to have to stay there stuck for the rest of the Shabbat. Who's going to go there? Nobody's going to want to go there. And therefore, it's going to be pikuach nefesh al haba in the future. So therefore, there's a big difference between the person himself that they're in sakana. So for example, this woman that she's pregnant, that even if right now you're going to tell her, by the way, if you go to the hospital, you're not going to be, she'll still go. Why? Because it's for her itself. She's not going to stay home and just wait until something happens. Or the sick person is not going to stay at home and just wait until something happens. So there's a big difference between itiru sofa mishum tchilatan, between the one that's going to save and the one himself that is going to save himself. That's going to be a very big difference between the two different opinions. That again, they were only itiru sofa mishum tchilatan for the person that's going to save, but not the one that's coming and he's going to be himself sick, that there they did not permit such a thing for him to go home.